Hi everybody and welcome to the Anfield Eye. My name is Mal and this is the dreaded preview of Newcastle versus Liverpool. And as you can hear from the tone of my voice, it's a fixture that I'm not quite looking forward to. But buckle in, it'll take only a few minutes of your time and I have my glass of water. I have the beautiful doubters to believers in the back. I have my lovely red top and I have my wonderful red cap. And I'm here to preview Liverpool playing Newcastle on Monday night at St. James's Park. So, as you know, this isn't just another Premier League fixture. This is personal. Liverpool are heading into St. James's Park with revenge on their hands. And they have a £79 million wild card up front with Hugo Ekitike. And a squad that's been rebuilt to win, which is, I think every Liverpool fan will see the signings that we've made and say, yep, this is a good team. Okay? Newcastle embarrassed us in the League Cup final last year. We huffed and we puffed and we just couldn't get it across the line. And you know what? When Liverpool did lose that cup final, I kind of shrugged my shoulders. I wasn't disappointed. I got on with my day, and I kind of felt okay for Newcastle to win a cup after so many years of trying to do that. So, you know what? I didn't want to take away Newcastle's happiness. Yeah, we just won the Premier League, or we were on our way to win the Premier League. So, yeah, the League Cup, we lost it. I would have loved to have won the League Cup, but Newcastle did win the League Cup. Now it's time to flip the script. But we have injuries, we have tactical dilemmas, and a hostile crowd of 52,000 Geordies who are going to be pretty peeved off. And if you don't know why they're going to be peeved off, I'll touch on that in a minute. Arne Slot's Reds, they really do look like they can handle that heat. Stick around, because we're breaking down the drama, the danger, the decisions that could define Liverpool's season, starting right here and right now. And we have really 10 talking points. And the talking points that I want to go through are revenge or repeat, the cup final hangover. So, going into the League Cup final last year, I don't think there was any bad blood between Newcastle and Liverpool, between the fans, the manager. Liverpool fans knew they had a match on their hands. They knew that Alexander Isak was in that team, and they knew that Newcastle have only one way of playing football, and that's attack. Newcastle are a team that don't sit back. They go to win a match. And that's the kind of team that Arne Slot appreciates. A team that will always go ahead and try to win the match. And that's what Newcastle did. So now Liverpool going to St. James's Park on Monday. It's a chance for us to really say, well done winning the League Cup, but we are Premier League champions and this is a Premier League match. So this is our bread and butter, and we're going to win this match. So stamp your authority, go for it, go for a win, okay? And Newcastle can enjoy another day. So that's the plan. I'm hoping that will pan out. It's champions versus contenders, really, because Newcastle did really well last year. They got into the Champions League. They have a very good team. And when I say they have a very good team, they've got a very good first 11. Yeah. And that's something which I think is, I think they're going to beat a lot of teams in the Premier League because they have a very good first 11. And there's one player in that team that makes it a very, very good first 11. And we all know who that player is. And that player doesn't want to play for Newcastle anymore. Okay. I don't say his name, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah? We all know what you're talking about. So the basic situation is this. It's the rivalry that's been reignited. Alexander Isak has had conversations at Newcastle with the manager, with people senior, high up, who gave him assurances that he could leave at the end of the season and that they would find he could go to any club he wanted. And so they spoke to him and said, yeah, okay, Alexander, we've just won the League Cup. If you want to leave, we'll find you a replacement and we'll let you leave. And unfortunately, what's happened the whole of the summer transfer window is Alexander Isak's move away from Newcastle has just been dragging on and on and on and on. And Liverpool are just sitting by the sidelines. They're not doing anything. You know, we're not, in a way, disrupting Newcastle. We're not disrupting Alexander Isak. We've just kind of like moved away. We've stepped away. We're doing our own transfer dealings. Okay, we're selling players. We're buying other players. Yeah, and we're not just sitting there in the shadows, just twiddling our thumbs. You know, waiting for this massive hoo-ha between Alexander Isak and Eddie Howe and Newcastle. We're getting on with it, okay? But unfortunately, what's happened is a lot of Newcastle fans have taken it personally. And they've taken it personally towards Liverpool. So it's a bit unfortunate. I don't think they needed to do that. I think Newcastle fans should have looked at Alexander Isak and they should have said, right, best striker in the world, one of the best strikers in the world, but clearly the best striker in Europe. How much wages are we paying him? And if the wages are not the wages within the 300 or 400,000 pound bracket, then a player is well within his rights to turn around mid-contract and say, you know what, I would like a new challenge with a club that's prepared to pay me according to the value that I am and according to the goals that I score. And I think it's time that I move to a team where the likelihood of winning silverware is much higher than with Newcastle United. And so this has turned into a bit of a rivalry because the Newcastle fans have taken it personally. And they shouldn't really have taken it personally. They should have looked at Newcastle and the board and what they were paying Alexander Isak. And they should have said to their club, guys, we think you screwed up here. So that's my opinion. Not Liverpool's fault and not Alexander Isak's fault. Clearly the fault of Newcastle United football team. Going into this season, we have contrasting form. Liverpool have won their last match against Bournemouth. And we'll touch on that a little bit. But Newcastle, even though Aston Villa had a player sent off, couldn't score a goal against Aston Villa. So it kind of makes you wonder that, you know, that puts a lot more pressure on Alexander Isak. Every time Newcastle play a match and they don't score a goal, the fans are going to turn on Isak. And they shouldn't really be turning on Isak. They should be saying, really, is there only one striker we've got at Newcastle United? No. There are more strikers at Newcastle United. And they should be scoring goals as well. So, for example, Liverpool have Mo Salah. And we don't rely on Mo Salah to score all our goals. We get goals that are scored by Gakpo. We used to have goals that were scored by Diaz, Nunez. We got goals that are scored by midfielders. Szoboszlai comes in, scores a goal. Harvey Elliott comes in, scores a goal. So Newcastle shouldn't really be blaming Alexander Isak for the fact that they drew 0-0 against Aston Villa. I think that's just kind of looking for a scapegoat. And you don't really want to scapegoat Alexander Isak. Because there's a slim possibility he might actually come back and play for Newcastle if his transfer demands or his transfer wish is not met. So Liverpool have a problem with our counter-attack. When we're counter-attacked, we look vulnerable. In the last match against Bournemouth, we were cruising 2-0, and all of a sudden, Bournemouth came back and you know, we're 2-2. And then it's panic stations. Then everyone's looking at each other and they're like, oh my God, what the hell do we do here? Well, Arne Slot said, don't panic. I've got an idea. What was his idea? Let's put on Federico Chiesa, the Italian goal machine. So that's what he did. Put on Federico Chiesa, bang, 3-2, 84th minute. All nerves are calmed at Anfield. And then Mo Salah goes on and mwah, makes it 4-2. Because it's the opening day of the season. How can Mo Salah not score on the opening day of the season? So if the score looks good, and I think for a 10-15 minute period in that match against Bournemouth, Liverpool looked a little bit wavy. Now, Gravenberch didn't play in that match, and he didn't play for Liverpool in the Community Shield. And clearly you could tell that we were missing Ryan Gravenberch. So our key man against Newcastle United is going to be the comeback of Ryan Gravenberch. I cannot begin to tell you how comfortable and happy Virgil van Dijk and Konate feel when they see Ryan Gravenberch right in front of them, stopping the opposition from coming forward and attacking. Ryan Gravenberch is a different breed. We missed him against Bournemouth. We missed him against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. He is what we need, and he is coming back against Newcastle. If we were missing Ryan Gravenberch against Newcastle, I'd be very, very worried, and this video would be very, very a different tone, so to speak. So we've got Ryan Gravenberch coming back, and Szoboszlai and McAllister, as good as they are, and they're very, very good in midfield, they're not Ryan Gravenberch. So when a midfielder from the opposition looks at our midfield and is thinking of bombing it forward, they see Ryan Gravenberch right in front of them and they think, we'll pass it sideways. Okay? Because Ryan Gravenberch is not going to let you pass the ball. He's not going to let you pass him, and he's not going to let you out-football him. He's a very, very intelligent footballer. And so I expect Ryan Gravenberch to start against Newcastle, and I expect him not to get into the Newcastle penalty area. He is just going to stand, and he is just going to stop all attacks from Newcastle if they are coming through the middle of the field. Now, we do have a problem because Jeremy Frimpong is injured. And so we've got to ask ourselves who is going to start in that match in place of Jeremy Frimpong. And I believe, I want Arne Slot to put Joe Gomez in that position. The reason for that is because Joe Gomez is a solid defender, okay? I think the last time he scored for Liverpool was in 1934. Yeah. We don't need Joe Gomez to get into the penalty area and score for us. What we need is Joe Gomez to take that position, okay, and secure that part of the field and make sure that Newcastle do not attack from that side. And Joe Gomez is a utility player. He can play left back, centre back, right back. And that's why we've kept him for so many years, because he is injury prone. But when he's not injury prone, he's very, very valuable to the team. So I expect to see Joe Gomez starting in that first 11 for Liverpool. This is going to be a really interesting test for Arne Slot. It's his first major away test in the Premier League. And I expect there to be a high press, fluid midfield rotations, and aggressive transitions. I do expect that, because that is the way Arne Slot plays. But the question again comes down to how will Arne Slot adapt to Newcastle's physical midfield. They are a very physical team. And Szoboszlai, he's not a very physical player. McAllister is, Gravenberch is, and all our defenders are as well. Kerkers is very physical as well. I see a lot of opposition fans kind of questioning Milos Kerkez, his start to his Liverpool career. But I would just say, relax, chillax. The guy's a pro, okay? He's just come to a club which is probably 3 times bigger than the club he was at. he needs time to adjust. And he will adjust. And let's not forget, we've got our Scottish maestro, Andy Robertson, sitting on the bench. Okay? So Milos Kerkez is in good hands. Okay? He's being mentored by at one stage, the best left back in the world. Okay? I have no problem with that, Milos Kerkez. What I suspect Arne Slot probably said to Milos Kerkez is, hold back on the tackles a little bit. Okay? Because when he does go in for the tackles, he's a little bit reckless. I think you noticed that. I noticed that. He's a little bit reckless. So I don't really want to see Milos Kerkez kind of like, getting yellow carded or red carded against in the Newcastle match. Now, forget about Isak. There's another player that's going to be on the pitch against Newcastle, playing for Liverpool, called Hugo Ekitike, our French maestro. And Hugo Ekitike, if you haven't noticed, has had a very good start to the Premier League. He scored in the Community Shield, and he scored against Bournemouth. And they weren't tap-ins. No. They weren't tap-ins. They were goals that he created himself with his eagerness, his determination, and his real push to get forward. So Newcastle wanted Hugo Ekitike, and he chose Liverpool. And he will start up front. He's guaranteed to start against Newcastle. And with Newcastle previously linked to Hugo Ekitike, this is a perfect chance for him to make a statement, especially at St James's Park, because he might get booed, he may not get booed. I don't think he will get booed, because he never turned around and said yes to Newcastle and then moved to Liverpool. I mean, it's not like an Eze, Tottenham, Arsenal love triangle. Yeah. Hugo Ekitike only wanted Liverpool. Manchester United wanted him. I think Chelsea were linked to him. Newcastle desperately wanted him. But the moment Richard Hughes rang his agent, he said, yep, get the deal done. I just want to go to Anfield. So Hugo Ekitike is going to play a big role at St James's Park. Don't be surprised if Hugo Ekitike scores 3 goals in a row, because he is that good a player. There are no question marks about Hugo Ekitike. There are question marks regarding Gyökeres. Did you see him against Manchester United at Old Trafford? The less said about that, the better. Yeah? And there's question marks against Sesko. Why would you want to replace a Rasmus Højlund with another possible Rasmus Højlund, who will score probably an extra 2 or 3 goals? I don't know. The jury's out for both of them. Okay? I hope for the love of the Premier League that they both turn into really, really good strikers and they do well. I do. But their opening matches for their respective clubs was not an opportunity for the fans to go, wow, so impressive. Okay? So there we go. Hugo Ekitike to start. And then we've just got to be wary that Newcastle are a wounded animal. They're a wounded tiger. They feel like they're up against it, and so it's always dangerous to play a team like that at home in front of their fans. But they've struggled to score. They struggled to score against 10-man and Aston Villa, and Alexander Isak will not be available for that match. He really is upset with Newcastle and their ability to buy a striker and let him go. And they've got a new signing, Jacob Ramsey. I think he will probably start as well. He may not. But they've got Bruno Guimaraes and set pieces. And that's where they're going to be the most dangerous. If Ryan Gravenberch can nullify, Bruno Guimaraes, we should be okay. We should be okay. And then you need to have Gomez kind of nullifying Anthony Gordon. And I think that we've got enough firepower in our toolbox to win that match. But saying is one thing, and doing it is something else. Finally, to wrap things up, my predicted 11 for the match against Newcastle. So I think Alisson will start. And I think at right back, we'll probably end up with Gomez. But we do have Wataru Endo. We do have Wataru Endo. And he's had quite a lively start to the season as well. So Gomez to start at right back. Centre backs will be Konate and Van Dijk. I suspect Milos Kerkez will be playing as left back. In midfield, we'll have Gravenberch and McAllister. And then attacking midfield, we'll have Szoboszlai. And then we will have Salah on the right, Gapco on the left, and then Hugo Ekitike will be playing as our striker up front. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, my prediction for the Newcastle match. St. James's Park is not a very, very easy trip. I know that because a lot of the opposition fans, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, they all do not like to travel to Newcastle United. It's our second match of the Premier League. Let's get it out of the way. I'd rather be going to Newcastle in the second match of the Premier League than the last match of the Premier League, where it's a matter of life and death. Okay? So I'd rather be going to Newcastle now, where we have a fully fit squad, partially fully fit squad. Rest in peace, Jeremy Frimpong. I hope you get better, but a 95% fully fit squad. Yeah? So that's my predictions, ladies and gentlemen. I think we will win that match against Newcastle. And I think that it's going to be a tough match, but it's going to be a 3 points. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.